Greetings and shalom to everyone. Pastor Mark Biltz here from Shaddai Ministries, and I am so thrilled to introduce to you, many of you may already know, but should I say Professor Danny Ben GiGi.
Danny Ben GiGi is good enough.
Danny Ben GiGi. He's been a friend of mine for over a decade, I believe. It's been a long time. And Shaddai Ministry in our bookstore has always sold a lot of his material. We also always want to direct people directly to his website as well. But Danny, tell people a little bit about yourself and about your website.
Well, I've been teaching Hebrew since I was born, maybe a few minutes after.
So you're Israeli?
I'm Israeli, right, native Israeli, and very connected with all my soul to the Hebrew tongue. And I find it fascinating because when I was first introduced to the English version of the Bible, I start noticing kind of strange departure from what I read in Hebrew to what I find in English. But, you know, we're here in America or, you know, in the Western world that among English speakers, and the best English speakers have is English, right? Except for a few that is kind of entertaining the thought of jumping into the warm water of Hebrew. I will not say cold. Some people think it's cold. No, it's very warm, loving, and caressing. Because it is adding. Hebrew will add an extra facade, an extra layer, or even if you want, Pastor, an extra dimension of understanding and grasping the teaching. Now, I know I've been watching you and following you for a long time, and I can see how deeply embedded is your teaching in not only the Hebraic tradition, but in the language itself. And you're very keen to look for the source because you're a truth seeker. Now, without putting anywhere else down, I'm putting you up because your work is diligent and amazing. I always loved it with the deep care for the correctness, the truthfulness of the teaching. And this is what I love, and this is what I like also to do.
Let me jump in here a minute. I want people to understand how you are one of the top, I believe, top Israelis with the language. You've taught Hebrew in colleges, and if anyone wants to know the correct translation of the Hebrew about all the nation of Israel, you're the go-to guy, even the chief rabbi goes to.
Well, no, I did some work for the rabbis, but mostly the important work to do with the body of believers that are drawn into the origins. In a way, people want to relive who are the first, like the first century believers, yes. Right? I mean, many generations went through. There isn't, you know, I mean, you can look at English Bibles. You have your preference, and you and other people have their own preferences. But such a thing cannot ever happen in Hebrew.
You can only have one.
One. And people say, why? What's the reason for that? The reason for that is embedded in a statement, and we have it here, but we'll talk about it later. In Bible Mysteries Under Hebrew Light, we tried in that idea to take concepts that people know, but they don't know where it's coming from. What's the origin? What's the source? What's the explanation? So this is embedded. The idea of having one Bible only, one version only, is embedded in a statement that many people know. And that's the statement that Jesus made, Yeshua, and it says a jot and tittle. Now, I talk to many people. Some of them are pastors, and I will ask them, what does it mean to you? And you know, to my deep surprise and amazement, many do not know what's the origin. Why is it so important to say not a jot and tittle? Now, just to say that kind of in a nutshell, a jot or a tittle are small little serifs that are decorating Hebrew characters in the Bible, in the Torah, in the mezuzahs, and so on. Small, tiny, that otherwise are meaningless. You take them away, the letter is still the same, you read it the same, and the meaning of the letter would be the same with the jot and tittles or without the jot and tittles.
Right.
So then why do we have them there? The reason for that is, and why Jesus was using that, the reason for the jot and tittle is that God knows the heart of men. Okay, so now you have a Bible with small jot and tittle, and they are above certain Hebrew letters. One of them is above the smallest letter of the Hebrew alphabet, the letter Yud. That's the 10th letter,
yes.
you know. The jot of that letter is so small that sometimes you can't even see it in the naked eye. You need a magnifying glass. But a person that copies the Bible from generation to generation is called the scribes. Now, these people swear in their lives that they will not take the liberty to change even the tip of the serif of the smallest letter of the Hebrew alphabet when they write a Bible.
The decorations stay.
The decorations stay, and there is a very meaningful reasons behind it. It looks like nitpicky, right? Nitpicking, but it's not. Okay, so now let's say they wrote a portion of the Bible, a machine, a computer, or another rabbi will come and check it and say, oh, there's a mistake in the jot. That piece of Torah will be canceled, will not be trashed, but it will be buried. We don't throw scrolls. Yeah. It will be buried, and the scribes have to rewrite it. And it takes years to write a book of Torah because they don't allow departure even in the tip of the serif of the smallest letter of the Hebrew alphabet. God knew the heart of man, and he knew, and there are words in the Bible that sometimes are not clear, even grammatically in Hebrew. So to prevent the case that someone will take the liberty and say, oh, God didn't really mean that, let's correct it, you know? And if somebody takes a letter and corrects it, another person may take the liberty and change a word. Yeah. And another one will change a sentence, and who knows how far we get for God's word if that happened. Well, that happens in English. You have the NIV, and you have the King James, and you have the New King James, and you have the juvenile King James, or who knows, you know. So many versions, you ask yourself a question, which one is the correct?
Yes.
How could it be that, and this, and this, and this? But that's the best we have. We believe the truth in the Hebrew. So Jesus said that when they accused him from breaking a law, the law of Sabbath, and he said, you dare accusing me from breaking the law? Meaning canceling a whole law, which is a big sentence or a paragraph. No, I don't even allow changing the smallest tip of serif of the Hebrew alphabet. Not a jot and tittle will be changed from the law as long as the earth is still here. Standing strong, and I say, no way, Jose, in a way, right? Okay, so that is just like one. That's why there is only no such thing as two versions of Hebrew Bible. You cannot have it.
You can't have two.
You can't. You can't change the tip of serif. You can't change
might
a word.
In the English, like I know the JPS English translation may be different than an English
but
translation.
That's English.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But the Hebrew,
yes.
I just want to clarify for our readers that if they had two different Tanakhs that might have English,
right.
The Hebrew is going to be identical.
Identical. And even in the Dead Sea Scrolls that they found there in the Dead Sea, very few tiny departures because maybe of copying, but really it is not. It's the same Bible. It's the same Tanakh. It's the same thing. So that's
what they found when they discovered the Isaiah scrolls.
Exactly. And they are still in Israel Museum. When you take people there to your great tours, you know, you take them to the Israel Museum and to see the scroll, which is pretty amazing.
Well, tell us about what you have here.
All right. So throughout the years, you know, there was the time of CDs and books, and this still is. You know, you're publishing some wonderful books, and I wrote some books. But you know, with time, and the communities became really large. I mean, I watched one time how many people listen to your El Shaddai. You're located here, but you're located anywhere in the world. You're located in Africa, you're located in Asia, in all over so people, you know, and nowadays, if somebody wants to learn Hebrew, what do? I mean, you have to buy a book, right?
Right.
And shipping it overseas, the time it takes and all that, it's cumbersome, it's difficult. And also, it's not that easy sometimes to learn a language from a book. You have to open it, you have to hear it. We converted everything we had to online trainers.
Okay.
And these trainers, you don't even need the CD. You can, but you don't have to. You can just simply download it, and then a person can use it on their computers, on their laptops, on their any smart device, even over the phone. And that's what makes it easy. So there's no shipping involved, and it's interactive. You know, in a book, when you read, when you try to learn a language, you can't really hear it. You have to put a CD, then you have to find the page, and it's kind of tedious. We made it clickable. Everything is clickable.
Wow.
So, and with testing, you do it again and again. And it's really a time for people that really care for and thinking it's not something beyond the reach and the ability of normal people. And I'm saying to anybody listening now, you can. Yeah, it's in your ability. So we did publish the Hebrew Trainer, and that is covering everything, starting from scratch, from like nothing, from letters, not jots and tittles, but letters.
Sure.
And with the sounds, and it's all clickable. But then some people want to put the focus of their interest on biblical Hebrew. And many people ask me, well, what's the difference? You know, unlike modern Greek and ancient Greek, modern Hebrew, or I call it normal Hebrew, and biblical Hebrew is very minute. There are rules, verbs, and structures that existed in biblical Hebrew that don't exist today, not in use today, and vice versa. But the language is the same. So if you were to bring a person, let's say in a time machine from King David era, right to modern Israel today, it will take him a few weeks and he can speak like anybody else, you know?
Okay.
And vice versa too.
Gotcha.
Send somebody to the past, will have no trouble to speak with the people of 3,000 years ago.
Wow, amazing.
Same language. Not in Greek, two completely different languages. But there is a focus here. So there are some rules of biblical Hebrew.
Okay.
And those are important to understand better. It's not expected somebody to, you know, allocate an hour or two and to be able to understand all the words in Hebrew. It doesn't work this way. But it really helps to understand some of the structure, you know, to understand by the sound that you can hear, it goes along with that. And it starts from scratch as well, from the very beginning, and it grows. So that's the idea of the two. And they are kind of interwoven to one another.
Okay.
Biblical Hebrew and Hebrew Trainers, those two. But then we went beyond that, and people want to, I know there is a great love for the book of Psalms. So we did, it was an older book. That was a great project that was done years ago by the famous family, and they created the harp. They replicated the harp of King David according to the biblical instructions. And they got world fame on doing that. And they were in Jerusalem, and they created the harp of King David according to the biblical instructions. What came out of that is something pretty shocking. They created a harp of 22 strings.
Wow. And there's 22 letters in the Hebrew
And
alphabet.
there are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. But it doesn't fit the do, re, mi, the scale,
Right.
the Western scale.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a strange scale. And the second one was the 10-string harp, 10 tribes, 10 commandments.
Yeah.
So those are basically, according to the Bible, the actual harps that were playing in Jerusalem, in the temple.
Wow.
Well, they went to exile, they had to leave the harps there. So they recreated the harp. And we approached them in Jerusalem, and
Yeah.
we sent them to the wall, to the ruins of that temple where the harp was playing once.
I heard they were hung on the willows.
Yeah, right, for a while, right. And I asked them to go to the ruins of the wall, get inspired, and we sent them 100 excerpts from the book of Psalm when the person praying to God and requesting directly from God. Now, this is attainable because those are statements like, heal me, O Lord, because my bones are shivering.
Yeah.
Or save me, O God, from a bad advice, and so on. And they're titled, and people emanate them in Hebrew. Now, I don't need to tell you the power of saying a word in Hebrew.
Right. Oh, yeah. It's huge.
You do it a lot. All your prayers are
Yes.
done in Hebrew.
Yes.
And many times you emit the words and people hear it.
Right.
And it rings differently. It's not just another language. You know, there are many languages in the past. In the Bible, you hear about the Girgashite and Jebusite and
All
the
these.
Philistines and Amalek. And all those nations have had languages in the past.
Right.
And languages, just like creatures of living, humans and mammals, have a beginning point. They grow, they reach their peak, they subside, and eventually they die off and disappear from the face of the earth, never to come back again, except for Hebrew.
Well, that goes back to Zephaniah, a prophecy in chapter 3 that says God will return a pure language to all nations, that they can
Exactly.
call upon me in one accord.
Exactly. And you know what? To refine that statement, when you look at Hebrew, he doesn't say just return. He said, I'll flip to you, ehefoch lachem safa. I'll flip to you a pure language. Now look, most of the Latin languages are written from left to right.
Yeah.
Hebrew is
He's
flipped.
going
It's
to
written
right to left. He's
right.
literally going to flip it, so everyone's going to go right to left.
And exactly.
It's like a reversal of the Tower of Babel.
Right, exactly. So it's kind of fascinating. So people can do that. Now, instead of a book, this is something with videos and all that in Psalms of the Heart. And then we went and we have the Hebrew prayer. I know that many people here in other congregations and in different parts of the world, wherever you are, have an interest to say the prayers in Hebrew.
There's more power.
More power. And even in the New Testament, they ask, in the book of Mark, they ask him, how should we pray? Remember?
Yes.
And there's a quotation of the Shema Israel Adonai. All of those are Hebrew
Sure.
prayers, ancient ones.
Uh-huh.
We put them here in the Hebrew
Wow.
prayer trainer.
Wow.
And it teaches people how to pray.
And here's this one I'll send.
And that is the Hebrew conversation. For those who plan to speak a little Hebrew and find somebody, even over the internet or phone
Sure.
or something, communicate. But the important, I saw it very important, and that was the newest one. We called it Bible Mysteries Under Hebrew Light. We took many, just the jot and the tittle. Those are the concepts, you know. We took the important concepts that are important to every believer and explained them in light of the Hebrew tongue. And it's really fascinating because so many truth comes out, and this is not teaching Hebrew, but it's really teaching principles that everybody knows. It's not something that they are introduced first time. You know, even the crucifixion, or even the idea of what happened. You know, I ask people, do you know really what happened there? Why was Jesus really crucified? They say, well, it was a big plan, and it was supposed to be like that, and it's true. But what was the practicality? What was really very annoying to the leaders there that they prefer to let the Romans crucify him and not Barabbas or Bar-Abba in Hebrew?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, he was doing nothing wrong and Barabbas was a thief, you know. Why they picked him to do that and they did not really defend him? Well, apparently, you know, just to do it in a nutshell, if we have the time, in a nutshell, there are 613 commandments in the Bible. 613, right? Now, most of them are not related to ordinary people. There are the commandments of the priests, how to do the sacrifice, the temple practice, but some are really relating to human beings, right? And those laws in the Bible, in the Torah, are divided to two categories. Of course, there is omission and commission and so on, but the major two categories in the Hebraic mindset until this very day, since the ancient time, is laws between a person to person, called in Hebrew ben adam lechavero. These are all the sets of rules and behavior and standards of behaving to another human being. The other set is the laws between a person to God. Now, we don't even say the word God in that sense. We say ben adam lamakom. Makom means a place, right, the place. So the laws between a person to the place, and this is a hint, a euphemism, to say God without mentioning the name. Also, going back to the Ten Commandments, you should not carry, or you say you should not, what is the English saying? You should not take my name in vain, right?
Yeah, yes.
You should not take my name in vain. Take it where? What is take?
Yeah.
I mean, you take words? No, I mean, strange expression, right? You should not take my name in vain. That's not what the Hebrew says. The Hebrew doesn't even say you should not say my name in vain, because you cannot say the name of God. What does it mean? Why Hebrew does not allow saying the name of God? The Hebrew says there, you should not lift up my name in vain. So the expression of emitting the name of God has already a direction to where he is. So we say you should not lift up the name of God in vain. All right, so in order not to say it many times excessively, the Hebraic way, which is very pious in that way, or very reverent, not taking a chance, let's put it this way.
Yeah.
If there is 1% of chance of transgressing and saying it in vain, they would rather not say it at all,
Right.
or using another name, but not saying it. Kind of extremely reverent, right?
By vain, what do you mean by in vain in Hebrew?
Okay, so in vain, because that's a very good question. I mean, I can show you libraries of books are written about this question. You know, what is in vain? You don't know. So let's take an example. Somebody is sending his son to to medical school, and he's praying for his success in medical school so he can heal many people. And so he's praying and saying the name of, lifting up the name of God. And you'll say, and you'll ask, well, that was in vain when he lifted up the name of God? Apparently you would say no, because it is, you know, the son succeeds in a medical school, he will help and heal many people. Well, what about praying for his daughter's success in law school? You say, well, it's very important. Well, and what about praying for him getting a new Mercedes, you know? And what about praying for a green Mercedes for the weekends and another Bentley for the for weekdays? Then you say, oh, I think that's in vain. Well, basically, we don't know where is the borderline between in vain and not in vain. Because we don't know where is the borderline, the reverent approach was to, let's say it as less as possible, not to stumble in the 1% chance of saying it in, or lifting it up in vain, okay?
I may win the lottery.
Yeah, exactly, right. So, so because of that, so the subject, go back to the subject, okay, so in the jot and tittle too, and in other places, so the set of laws between a person to person and the person to the place, meaning the person to the creator, right? Guess, well, you know, but if we have people, guess what is more important? The laws between a person to a person, or the laws between a person to the place? But we have to establish what is the laws between a person to person. You know, treating other people decently, not stealing, not murder, lying, and you know, abusing widows and orphans and all that. And what are the laws between a person to God? You're teaching there, Pastor Mark. Many times you teach you know, those are the laws that we see about the holidays, the feast, and the customs, and even the Sabbath. These are things, or Passover rules, you know, what you do, cleaning up the unleavened bread and all that. These are laws between a person to person. If you think
a person to God.
A person to, to the place, to God. Sorry, you're right. Thank you for correcting me. I make mistakes sometimes, but don't ever quote me saying that. So, yes, person to God. So, if somebody, if the person is making a transgression on those rules, you'll think, you know, this is like, you know, building the tabernacle and shaking the lulav and etrog. These are all laws between a person to the place, to God. So if you think about that, mostly, I mean, with all due respect, mostly there are technicalities, you know. You know how to shake it 3 times here or 4 times here, and you know to do that, and you clean that. But there are technicalities. But what about being a good person? Is that technicality? No. You have to to surrender to desires, to wishes, you know.
So what would be worse, not shaking a lulav right or stealing?
Okay, so according to the orthodoxy, what we see throughout the Bible, and even today, the idea, and okay, so the definition of laws between a person to the place, called in Hebrew mitzvot chamurot, in English meaning severe laws. And likewise, they are punishable by severe punishment, right? And the laws between a person to person, everything you numbered before, stealing, dead, beating, taking advantage, widows, orphan, kin, all of those, in a strange way, are called light laws, mitzvot kalot. So there's a problem here. Those are light, those are severe.
Yeah.
Who was bothered very much by this distinction? Jesus, Yeshua. Well, when they ask him, how do you treat the law? You know, I don't know exactly where it is. I think in the book of Matthew.
Yes.
It is in Matthew?
I think so.
How do you treat the law? And he coined the word kala kevechamura, meaning he equated the severe to the light, the loss between a person to the place.
They all break God's law. They all break them. They're all there. He's equalizing them.
Well, he did that. That was not the way the Sanhedrin and the clergy of the time, those sages, that's not the way they looked at it. This is why he called them hypocrites. In case you don't know where is the hypocrisy is coming from, that is why. Do what they tell you to do. Don't do what they do. Because they transgress, you know.
Right.
That's what he was bad. So equating them was an earth-shattering statement, and they could not live with that any further. And that created the big animosity there. But he had to say that. And, you know, an ordinary person cannot come and say something like that. Equating the law, you know. So this is all part of Bible Mysteries under Hebrew Light and many others. It was based on a book. Was called God's Secrets, only Hebrew can reveal, but this is an extension. This is a bigger extension of that book. And there are like 150 or more subjects, and we're still adding to them all the time.
What's that last one? Did you want to talk about that last one? Oh, laying down.
Oh, okay. So in case somebody still wants to, we did it in a bundle. So
each one, what do these cost individually?
Oh, no, a lot. So even as they cost like about, I think it comes up to $320.
For all of these?
Yes, for all of these. But with El Shaddai, and now we do want to offer it to everybody for half of that price.
And you put it in one?
Yeah, in case somebody really wants the CD to get it like a hard copy, we put everything in one, and if somebody we need to send it overseas, but it's also available by simple downloading to their computer.
Wow.
And to the phone or to the iPad or to anything, you know.
Wow.
They can do that.
And it works on both Mac and Windows.
It works on both Mac and Windows, and every computer and every smart device or phone or anything. It does.
So if they got that one includes all of these.
The whole thing is there. Everyone.
The whole thing.
Yes, and they make you become users, and it's for life. It doesn't expire. You know, there are some trainers in the market that they do.
Expire.
And number one, they expire. Number two, it costs a lot, about 10 times what this costs. Yeah, very expensive. And you have to sit by the phone and have when the teacher, and it's very tedious, it's difficult.
Yeah, crazy.
This one, it's interactive too. So it has testing and questions, and you answer, and
incredible.
Much more flexible for people to use.
Okay, but they can what's your website? How do they get it?
They can go to Hebrew1.com.
Is the number one or O-N-E?
The number one. Hebrew, Hebrew, number one.com, and it's right there. They can just pick it up from there. And
they can get any one of these individually, or they can get that as a whole unit?
Yeah, they can get anyone individually or the whole unit, which is really including a very large selection. And each facade, each one is representing a different approach to the Hebrew. The prayer, the Bible Mysteries under Hebrew Light, and the Hebrew, they're all kind of interwoven to one another, support one another. But yes, they can get that, and it's still going to be half price of the regular. Only 100, I think it's right now 180 instead of 320.
Okay, wow, that's incredible.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Here, I'll take that. I want to take a look at this. This is great. It's the Hebrew Training Bundle. You get all of these together. This is amazing for people that want to learn Hebrew, which really makes a difference in your understanding of the Bible. I like to joke, and I like to say that we're all going to be speaking Hebrew during a millennial reign.
Yes.
So you can either learn it now, or you can wait for the free download, where God just zaps us. Right. But until then, I think it'd be wonderful to learn as much Hebrew as we can, because like you said, it makes a big difference in understanding the context of the Bible and seeing the mysteries.
Yes, and even in small steps. You don't need to encompass everything in one overnight. Even small steps make you more familiar, more even friendly with the scripture. And you know what? In a way, like it happened to you, Pastor, less fearful. You have no fear.
I have no fear.
You trust God.
Yep.
You know Him, and you know Him from the entire picture, from what you read in English and what your discernment
Sure.
coming from the Hebrew as well.
So they can go to Hebrew1.com.
.com.
Hebrew1.com. Okay. That sounds wonderful. I believe we'll probably have some of these at esm.us on our website as well that people
Thank you.
can go and get it.
Thank you.
But I just know that you are one of the most Hebrew scholars there is in the world.
Oh.
And we just love you.
Thank you, Pastor. I'm not that
And
big.
your heart. Yeah, you're good. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I just want to again encourage everyone to get this material. There's so much there. And as you know, once you download it to your computer, it doesn't matter if the internet goes out. You've got it.
Oh, no. And that one is done.
Okay, we need to, what happens? Is this literally on their computer if the internet goes down?
No,
or not?
that's good that you asked. It's an activation. They do get an if they want a CD, it's an activation CD. Or they get the activation in the download. But no, it will take too much room on computers. It's online, but they
Okay.
only need the internet. When the internet
Okay.
is working, it's working. But
Okay.
most people have the internet working all the time.
Right.
And it's anywhere in the world. But you don't need the internet for that. Because it
Okay,
will
I
be
just
too-
want to make sure, because maybe some
Yeah.
people who don't have internet, but they want it and thinking they can put the disk in their computer and it will work.
The older program, but we don't use it
Okay.
anymore. It was slower. This is a much newer.
Okay.
It fits the 2022 and even for the next 5, 6, 10 years.
That's great.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you,
for
Pastor,
being
for
here.
hosting me.
Blessings to you.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you so
bet.
much.
Thank you.
Toda.